future of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Super. And I don't know if you remember after Toriyama passed away, Akio Yoku actually came out and he actually discussed the future of Dragon Ball, saying that I think I mentioned this when we kicked it, saying that Dragon Ball was going to continue for the next the next 10 years, and that how Dragon Ball Super was going to go past the end of Z,
Hmm.
and how basically uh if we're gonna get new content from now on, it's gonna be never ending in the canon of Dragon Ball Super. So when you tell people that, they're pretty much like, really, Dragon Ball Super, it's never gonna end, type shit. But
There's
you
so
know
many possibilities. Like there's a lot you can do with Dragon Ball Super.
that's
So
what I'm saying, bro. There's too much you can do with Dragon Ball Super. So when niggas tell, oh, what's it called? Dragon Ball is running out of ideas. I'm like, I don't think so, because if you can continue the series for the next 10 years, or even beyond, to the point where it's never ending, and you go past the end of Z, then that means you must have a lot of content. Look at GT. The Dragon Ball Super is not GT, right? GT didn't have multiple universes. They didn't establish a multiverse to basically explore. And but Dragon Ball Super, they have so much. Like they just just recently discovered the Demon Realm, in Dragon Ball Daima, and just recently unlocked new transformations, and now that we got Super Saiyan 4 in Dragon Ball Super, why not make elements from AF canon, and why not bring Super Saiyan 5 into Dragon Ball Super?
they Dragon Ball, yeah. I mean, there's a lot they could really do. There's a lot they could really do, and it sounds like Toriyama, before he passed, he written a lot of things to give the fans what they want. So
That's what I tell people. Toriyama left notes before he passed away. Basically, he told Toyotaro to take care of Goku. That's what this nigga Toriyama really wanted this legacy to continue even after he was dead. Because Dragon Ball has still continued to support his family. After his passing, and it's just really disrespectful to say that you want a series to end and go against a man's dying wishes. And even if you claim that you didn't know that he said this, and you didn't know that this was his dying wish, you still know damn well that this series is supporting his family. So it's like, even if you didn't know this was his dying wish, why would you say something like that? That's just pretty selfish, if you ask me. And it's it honestly sounds like you're just salty that Dragon Ball Super is knee deep. Dragon Ball Super is knee deep, and we knee deep. And that's how it is. Because Dragon Ball Super really is clapping these niggas up. With all these all this new power displayed. All this this God Key. Goku being able to use the power of the technique of Ultra Instinct in his other transformations. And Sand Scholar, he actually made a video of MUI. I don't know if I mentioned this last time when we had the conversation about Diamond, and basically how the fan base was basically how they said that neither Goku or Vegeta using Super Saiyan 4 and Super Saiyan 3 was a plot hole. But then we basically laid it down and explained that it's only a plot hole if you believe Super Saiyan 4 is stronger than Gaki. Because
yeah,
when you put everything in perspective, Toriyama really saved the franchise in hindsight. Because if you were to, like, let's say when Toriyama made Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta canon, and when, like, people were saying that oh, okay, maybe Vegeta has stamina issues, so maybe that's why he doesn't use Super Saiyan 3 in Dragon Ball Super. Because people were actually making this theory before he had Super Saiyan 3. People made theories about how, oh, Vegeta maybe has it already, but he just doesn't use it because it's basically its stamina issues are not worth. But their theory was correct, but the only thing they didn't have correct was the stamina issues. Because in Daima, we see that Vegeta in a kid body. If you remember Dragon Ball GT, you remember, oh, I can't handle Super Saiyan 3 unless I'm an adult. But you see Vegeta over here in a kid body. He's getting jumped by the Tamagami. He's absolutely able to hold Super Saiyan 3 with zero stamina drain whatsoever. So the fact that he didn't use Super Saiyan 3 in Dragon Ball Super has absolutely nothing to do with stamina. We see that this guy can hold Super Saiyan 3 in the most efficient way possible. And he's even able to fight with his arms folded in a kid body while getting jumped.
yeah. Honestly, Vegeta maxes like you said, he's always the one that kind of maxes out every we talked about it. Like he's the one that kind of maxes out every single form to his fullest potential.
Exactly. And if you remember, when they both unlocked the Super Saiyan God transformation, Goku, he underwent a ritual to get the Super Saiyan God transformation, but Vegeta, he put in the hard work and actually trained to unlock the Super Saiyan God transformation, and they eventually, locked Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, and they just continue to evolve from there, with Blue Kaioken and obviously Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Evolution, and Ultra. They just keep going up. Like the power is crazy in Dragon Ball Super, and that's kind of what makes the GT fans salty. When they look over here, they see all these forms. They see Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, God, Super Saiyan, Kaioken, and like Beast transformation, Super Saiyan Rage. You look back at GT, and everybody's sitting over there with Super Saiyan 2. You know,
Yeah.
Niggas still don't even got Super Saiyan 3 yet. Only niggas that got Super Saiyan 3 is Goku, and he can't even use that shit,
Exactly.
without his stamina being fucked up in his kid body. So, it's they are really behind. And these guys will do anything from now on to hate the canon because, like, because you remember for these debates, for the longest, and now that Toriyama finally put them to bed by placing Super Saiyan 4 right in between, Super Saiyan 3 and Super Saiyan God. But before that, since obviously GT not being canon, these GT guys will basically try to tell us, the smart fans, hey, well, we're never really gonna know because they're not in the same timeline, so we can't really prove it. And we're like, well, we can prove it now. We can prove it now. So you can't really do that anymore. So but these guys are still trying it. They're still trying it. That's why how how these niggas were basically like, oh, they didn't use it in Dragon Ball Super, so it must not be canon. I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works, buddy. You don't run the series. They already told us they had these forms. You can't try this again. Okay, this is not Dragon Ball GT. Daima is canon. You can't use the argument of, oh, they're not in the same timeline, so we can't prove it. Like, you can't do that shit again, bro. You're trying that again? Are you serious? It's like the whole point of making this shit canon was so you can't try that. So, it's really disingenuous, and that's why I say Dragon Ball Super is really knee deep in these guys.
GT fans are low-key weird to me because if you like GT, you would appreciate like Super or Daima. I don't know.
You would, but they don't appreciate it because they don't respect that its power is higher. I mean, I don't know if you remember Booty Memes, but he was basically saying that, oh, the people in Dragon Ball Super shouldn't be this strong. Like the people in Dragon Ball Super are just way too strong. But you say that, but at the same time, you're sitting over here telling me GT is stronger. So which one is it? Are the characters in Dragon Ball Super too strong for your liking? But because you're basically admitting that Dragon Ball Super is stronger than GT if you're saying that the characters in Dragon Ball Super are just way too strong for you to accept. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You're basically accidentally admitting GT is inferior by that same logic, but when you point that out, they'll still tell you, oh, GT is stronger. So, it's really easy to clap up the GT fans, and especially the ones who try to spite the canon and spite, Dragon Ball Super, and for, just completely burying GT. These guys are, crying over their 3 scoops of ice cream that fell on the floor in 1997. But we got new ice cream bars that are going to continue for the next 10 years. And, they're going to be coming out with movies. Video games, we've already reached the 3-year, mark period to where they release movies because, Akio Yoku said, we will be getting new movies for Dragon Ball Super. So, Dragon Ball Super Broly, that came out. And then 3 years later, we got Dragon Ball Super Hero. So now, we're already at the 3-year mark. So I believe we will be getting a movie very soon. And, I believe that if we are going to get a movie, it should be one of the arcs from the manga. So I would say Moro, if he was to, obviously he is going to be animated, but if he was to be animated anytime soon, then it should definitely be for this new upcoming movie.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. I'm excited for the movies though.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. We just got so much content over here in Dragon Ball Super that you really can't say that Dragon Ball Super doesn't have any ideas, because they're going to be continuing this for the next 10 years, and you're going to be seeing all the ideas that they've had, and basically tell you that, hey, we were right, you were wrong. We do got plenty of stuff to do, and we do continue going past the end of Z, and we do plan on making these characters get stronger, regardless if the GT fans want it or not. You know what I'm saying? It's like we got Super Saiyan 4, and here's another thing you could say to clap up the GT fans. They'll try to tell you, oh, you can't even say that because Daima SSJ4 and GT SSJ4 are 2 different transformations. And I'm like, okay, well, GT it's not canon, so its placement, it doesn't have a right to tell you its placement in the power scaling. The only person that has a right to do that is Toriyama, and that's exactly what he told us. But another thing, when Toriyama makes something canon, you ever notice that he makes it stronger? I mean, look at Dragon Ball Super Broly. He would one-shot Z Broly in his base form. That's something he made canon, and he made it stronger. And you would apply the same logic to Dragon Ball Daima. You got Dragon Ball Daima Goku, nigga's hair is red, must be stronger, right? I mean, that's if we're going by the same logic, by what made Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta stronger, if we're going by that same logic, then
you make the hair red right after, yeah, you're right.
Yep, exactly. So, but but with the introduction of that transformation, and the fact that Saiyan Scholar was saying, oh, they're never going to bring out an opponent that Super Saiyan God or Super Saiyan 4 can face. I'm like, why not? They bring out opponents that Super Saiyan 1 could fight. They bring out opponents that Super Saiyan 2 could fight. And they even bring out opponents that Super Saiyan 3 could fight. So it's not like the inclusion of MUI being used with these other transformations. It's not like that has to be applied just so they can have an enemy to fight, and use that specific transformation for, because I'm pretty sure they know that, fans want to see these other transformations. That's why they still keep them around. You can't get rid of Super Saiyan 1. You just can't do that. No matter how strong, never, no matter how strong characters get, you can't get rid of Super Saiyan 1, and you can't get rid of pretty much anything else, because, every single transformation is beloved by the fan base, you know, and regardless of, how weak it is or how strong it is or its relevance to the story or fights anymore. They know for a fact that these transformations are iconic. So it's just it would be very disrespectful to just not even just include these transformations anymore, just because oh, characters have gotten too strong. So now the only transformations that would actually do anything is going to be Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego. You feel me?
GT fans gotta let it go, bro. Like you said, that GT is older than all of us, pretty much.
Exactly. So it's like, what even makes you think that power that wasn't even introduced yet? What makes you think GT would have that? It's like Dragon Ball Super is introducing power that like we've never seen before. And that obviously means that GT wouldn't have that. We got God of Destructions, we got Angels. You're over there sitting with Omega Shenron and the Shadow Dragons. And I like Omega Shenron. He's my favorite, GT villain. I call him the final boss. But this nigga would get one-shotted by Beerus. He'll get one-shotted by a DBS-based Goku who has the power to destroy the universe in a single punch. He'll probably even get one-shotted by a Beast Gohan.
Yeah, honestly, it's like you said, if I was them, like, okay, like, I don't know, like, like, you just gotta give it up at some point. Like, the series is so far along from GT, and that's not like negating like GT fans and what GT was, but it's like, bro, to combat and to continue to argue, like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it really doesn't. So that's why when Super continues to clap him up, all they can really do is get mad at the canon. That's why I say Dragon Ball Super is knee deep. It really is knee deep in these guys. And they don't want to really show it, so they make these disingenuous arguments with, oh, okay, maybe he can't use it, because when they say, oh, Super Saiyan 4, maybe he can only access it in the demon realm. It's like, okay, when you say that, you're essentially trying to give Super Saiyan 4 a buff. You're basically saying, oh, this is so powerful, it can't just be used anywhere. You're basically trying to, like, give it a buff, in comparison to Gaki. You're like, oh, it's just so powerful, it can't be used anywhere. It's not like Gaki. You feel me?
Yeah. What sense would that make if he was even only allowed to be in the only allowed to
be in the fucking demon realm, right? Yeah. Right? Like, what transformation? Like, imagine. It's so ridiculous. That's what I'm saying. Like, the arguments they make just to not accept what was already confirmed to us. Mm-hmm. Just and even if they're like, oh, we need a Daima season 2 so they could explain this stuff. You're not getting a season 2, bro. They already told us this was 20 episodes and it's done. So any speculation you have around questions that you feel like that needs to be answered, you need to speculate it based off what they confirmed, and not because evidence beats out non-evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're obviously about to shift it focus, like you said, to movies and Super. So like you said, get ready for that. That's better than Daima, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I didn't think Daima was going to be all that. It's definitely better than I expected. I would say that it's better than what most people expected. It pretty much blew everyone's minds when it made, those two things canon. I mean, I know you said that Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta got overshadowed by Super Saiyan 4 Goku, but, it did make people happy to finally see that, become an actual thing. And same for, I would say, for Super Saiyan 4 Goku, it'd be pretty ridiculous to make him canon and never use it again, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're saying that, oh, okay, maybe he could only use it in the demon realm, so we need Daima season 2. It's like, okay, well, even let's go with your stupid argument that he could only use it in the demon realm. Let's say that's true. Why do we need a Daima season 2 for that? Why can't we just revisit the demon realm in Dragon Ball Super?
Literally.
You see what I'm saying? It's like they think that Dragon Ball Super needs to end to tell new stories when they could just tell those new stories within Dragon Ball Super.
Oh my gosh, people are sleeping on Dragon Ball Super, and it's kind of like, bro, like, just open your mind a little bit. like so all the things you talked about alone, but off the pure fact that there's a whole bunch of new universes. There's
new power tiers. There's God Key, you know.
There's so much to see, and it's like, bro, like to stat to like super alone, and we want to talk about GT and bring back Donna just to explain this, and such and such. And it's like, yo, bro.
Exactly, bro. You know, and but I feel like these guys are gonna get it eventually because when Super Saiyan 4 inevitably shows up in Dragon Ball Super, what are these guys gonna say?
Exactly, bro.
What are you you're just gonna be sitting there looking stupid. I'm gonna be celebrating like, yeah, Dragon Ball Super is the D, and we need D.